everyone, this is Kerjims channel. Now we are back to our new episodes of two similarity champions and comparison featured by League of Legends versus the Mobile Legend Bang Bang. But before that, please like and subscribe to my channel and don't forget to click the bell icon so you will be notified to our next episode video. Let's do this!
Ivern, the Green Father. As a Freljordian conquistador, Ivern took what he wanted and killed anyone in his way. That changed the day he cut down a mysterious tree called a God Willow. As it fell, the tree's magic flooded the cruel warrior's soul, leaving him with a love of nature and new appreciation for life. Now, by protecting the forest from those with evil in their hearts, the Green Father hopes to find atonement for his sins. Ivern's passive is Friend of the Forest. Ivern loves all the jungle's creatures and would never harm them. Instead, he sets them free. By right-clicking on any non-epic jungle monster, Ivern spends some health and mana to create a grove that then matures over time. Once the grove fully matures, right-clicking it again will free the camp's critters, who leave behind gifts of gold and experience. Ivern can free camps immediately after placing a grove by smiting it, or by clicking on any camp that's already missing its biggest monster. As Ivern levels up, the Green Father can share the red and blue buff with his allies. When he frees the Brambleback or the Sentinel, they'll leave behind a delicious little copy of the buff that can be picked up by an ally. Similarly, if an ally takes out one of the buffs themselves, a copy is left for Ivern. You don't have to stick around near groves while they take root, but come back once they've matured and you can harvest them instantly with one click. Root Collar, which slings a long root that damages, and no surprises here, roots the first enemy it hits. Sneak attack. If Ivern or any of his allies try to attack the rooted target from out of range, they'll dash to their max attack range. In the centuries since Ivern became a tree, he's grown some very long grass roots. The Root Collar basic attack combo has enough range to let him Red Rover right over jungle walls. Brushmaker. Brushmaker works on an ammo system, allowing Ivern to create several small patches or one large thicket of brush at a time. Brushmaker also has a passive that grants extra magic damage and range to Ivern's basic attacks whenever he's in brush. The effect briefly lingers after leaving brush, so he can still throw some zingers for a few seconds. Brushmaker is all about mind games. You can set up sneaky traps or just create complete mayhem in a lane without ever actually prancing in for a gank. Is Trigger Seed, which places a protective seed onto an ally, granting a shield. After a couple seconds, the seed explodes, damaging and slowing all nearby enemies. Trigger Seed is great for buffing allies, but it's also Ivern's best tool for one-on-one duels. The ability's shield and damage turned this trait around for the Green Father, and the slow kept Cho in range for one final auto attack. Ivern's ultimate is Daisy. She's a big, happy sentinel who loves hugs and punching enemies. She's controllable with R or alt-right click just like Ivern. If Daisy ever attacks the same champion 3 times in a row, she knocks up and damages all enemies in a line. Ivern is best at supporting other champions, but when he gets caught out, Daisy is there to help. While Ivern jukes around to dodge Riven's blows, Daisy gets in a few punches, activating her knockback effect. Her body blocking kept the Exile at bay until Ivern could bait her into a 1v4. Ivern's passive gives him access to jungle roots that just wouldn't work for other junglers. After preparing his own blue buff for later, he goes in for a level 1 invade of the enemy red, root calling over the wall to place a grove. He smites to save a few seconds and quickly goes for a gank on Xerath before the poor Mega Descendant has even hit level 2. Then flash down. Once Ivern hits 6, Daisy makes the green man's ganks a real hazard. While Daisy dukes it out with Ashe, Ivern safely avoids turret aggro by making sure that she goes in first. Even then, Ivern generally avoids turret damage using his shield from Trigger Seed. 3 hits from Daisy secures the knock-up on Braum, earning the final kill. In teamfights, Ivern shines as a long-range support, with basic attacks to back it up. He starts out this fight making a beeline for the brush to enable Brushmaker's passive, and focuses on Sho'Gath until he dies. Then he helps take out Cassiopeia with a well-aimed root collar, giving his fellow tree man a free dash to stick to her. As they switch to Nasus, Ivern casts Brushmaker at his own feet to re-enable his ranged bonus damage, helping send their final foe to the Dog's House. Creating Brush Anywhere lets Ivern put opponents in very uncomfortable situations, like this one, with 5 untargetable champions sieging an inhibitor, complete with a Blitzcrank grab. He shields Caitlyn as the siege begins and tags Thresh with a root collar. Unfortunately, this means he's missing all his defensive tools for the rest of the team fight, except for Daisy, who puts a few hits in to help Caitlyn survive her battle with Garen. The brush hook alone would let any Greenfather player say, "I've earned this one."
Friend of the Forest is Ivern's passive, and it makes his jungling unique and that he is entirely unable to attack or damage the jungle camps. Instead of that, when you target one, you channel for a few seconds and you create a golden ring that begins to fill, which costs a shitload of HP and a decent amount of mana. And when this ring fills up, you can free the monster. Anyway, you free them instantly, granting yourself full golden experience. Now, it sounds like it would take fucking forever to clear, given that you have to wait up to 40 seconds at level 1 to go to mature, but fighting a campo until you fill the ring, it'll free the monster in that moment, meaning you can slip in and out of the enemy jungle to grab whatever you want, without having to overstay your welcome or end up in 2v1 situation. You can sneeze in the jungle's direction, and you'll get killed by the air pressure. Now, the good thing about this is that you can prepare a couple of camps ahead of time, so you can just set some up, you've got low HP, just go back, and then by the time you come out, you just free them again, and it actually kind of is a little bit time efficient, but for fuck's sake, by God, does it make enemy junglers life hell if they don't know how to deal with this, which, I mean, I'm not the best player in the world. It's bizarre as fuck to play the first time you actually play Ivern, but it's actually, I guess, a very interesting mechanic, which is unusual for Riot. And it really is genuinely satisfying to slip in and out of the enemy jungler's asshole without even knowing that his jungle had been penetrated to begin with. Now, the second part of this passive is that starting at around level 5, killing red or blue buff will not only give Ivern a buff, but it leaves a second buff on the ground for any allies to pick up, meaning that no longer will you have to argue with your mid laner about who gets blue buff. The flying hits, they get rooted and it deals some magic damage. Now, if your allies click on the enemy rooted by your Q, this is where things start to get a little bit complicated. They can dash towards that target, which is both a very good thing and a very horrible thing to give your teammates the option to do. Now, on one hand, you hit a Q on an enemy and you're out of range, and maybe your top laner wants to go in. You've just given him that opportunity. Your top laner, your Renekton, can now fly onto the enemy, and then he can slice and dice through. He's suddenly on the enemy team, and it's perfect. You've given him the perfect way of engaging into a fight onto maybe like a special target or something. Or you're trying to close distance on a team, and you know, you're opening up options here. It's all good things. However, what I can also do is have your very low HP teammates who are trying to run away slowly turn and fling themselves towards the enemy because they cannot resist clicking on something shiny on the screen, leading to their inevitable death. Now think of Root Collar. Think of Ivern's spell, his Q, as the exact opposite of a Thresh Lantern. Instead of nobody clicking on the lantern, even when they need it, everyone will click on this spell when they don't need it for magic damage. So it kind of does help to put down a bush if you're looking to siege towers with a little bit less risk, or maybe you can put down some bushes to make contesting objectives like Dragon and Baron a little bit more difficult because of the enemy's lack of vision. However, it is a pain in the cock to use, so be very, very careful with it, because it is one of these spells that is double-edged. It can go either way depending on how you use it, and by God, if you put down a bush that cockblocks on your team, they will let you know that is what you have done. Now, Trigger Seed is Ivern's E, and it's a point-and-click shield that grants some decent damage mitigation before exploding after 2 seconds, doing a fairly decent amount of damage and slowing them as well. Think of it as Janus on the hell away. You save their asses, grabbing a team's unholy grail to make it actually fucking heal your team. And this spell, along with the redemption and the locket of the Iron Solari that you have no doubt bought, will make you a healing, shielding machine. There is so much that you can do as Ivern to prevent damage in team fights. It doesn't matter how dribbly your teammates are. Now finally, we have Ivern's ultimate Daisy. Now reusing a texture from the old blue buff, Ivern calls out the old blue golem who is now a chick and is now called Daisy and is oddly attractive to fight for him. She remains for a minute and is similar to Tibbers in the you can control her. You can tell her who to attack to move her around. And after 2 auto attacks onto a single enemy, she knocks them off in a line with increased attack range, making lots of wombo combo potential for Ivern's team. She also is able to dash onto targets that Ivern recruited. And she's also pretty fucking fast, not to mention if you're in a team fight, this is not a character that you'll test